Okay, so we are now at stage 7, paragraph page 574. Okay, and our last headword was command, new word type of lesson. Okay, so let's start with revision. Ready?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. First question. When you lack sufficient money to buy something, do you wait and save the money or do you buy it on credit? When you lack sufficient money to buy something, do you wait and save the money or do you buy it on credit? When I lack
When I
sufficient money.
efficient
One more.
money,
When I lack
when I lacked
sufficient money
so efficient money
to buy something,
to buy something,
I
I wait
and save the
to
money.
and save the money
Why? Why? Because
because it's more better. It's better. I think
it's
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 better.
much better. Very good in the
It's
long run. That's correct. And you hate credit. Okay, very good.
mm,
What do you think your town is lacking in more than anything else? What do you think your town is lacking in more than anything else? I think my
I
town's
think my town
is lacking in
is lacking in children
more than anything
more
else.
than anything else.
Is there a serious lack of food in some countries in the world? Is there a serious lack of food in some countries in the world? Yes,
Yes,
there's a
there is
serious
some serious
lack of food
lack of food
in some
in
countries
some
in the
countries
world.
in the world.
Very good. Okay. Who's your neighbor in this classroom? Who's your neighbor in this classroom? Nobody is my neighbor
Nobody is my
in this
neighbor
classroom.
in this classroom.
Very good. Why do you think it is that some people just don't get on well with their next door neighbors? Why do you think that is that some people just don't get on well with their next door neighbor? I think the
I
reason
think
that
the
some
reason
people
that some
just don't
people
get on
just
well,
don't just
get on
don't
well,
get that
get on
don't
well.
get on
One
well.
more. I think the reason
I think the
that
reason
some people
that some people
just don't
just
get
don't
on well
get on
with
well
their next
with
door
their next
neighbors
doors
is
neighbors
that we can
is that
choose
we
our
can choose
friends
our
but
friends
cannot
but
choose our
cannot choose
neighbors.
our neighbors.
Reggie, do you ever go to a neighboring town to do some shopping? Do you ever go to a neighboring town to do some shopping? Yes or no?
Yes,
I
I
sometimes go
sometimes
to a
go
neighboring
to a
town
neighboring
to do
town
some shopping.
to do some shopping
Why? Why? Because
because there are many supermarkets
in the neighboring town. Very good.
in a neighboring town.
Which do you think is the most pleasant neighborhood in your town? Which do you think is the most pleasant neighborhood in your town? I think
I
my
think
neighborhood
my
is
neighborhood
the most
is the
pleasant
most
neighborhood
pleasant
in my
neighborhood
town.
in my town.
Where are there quite a few shops in the neighborhood of this school? Are there quite a few shops in the neighborhood of this school? Yes or no?
Yes,
There are
there
quite a few
are
shops
quite a few
in
shops
the neighborhood
in the
of this
neighborhood
school.
of this school.
Very good. What's the name of the holy book for Christians? What's the name of the holy book for Christians? The name
The
of the
name
holy book
of the holy
for
book for
Christians
Christian
is the Bible.
is the Bible.
Very good. Why do soldiers march? Why do soldiers march? Soldiers march
Soldiers march
because marching
because
helps
marching
maintain
helps
order
maintain
and
order
also
and
because
also
it's
because
faster
it helps
and
the
less
and
tiring.
less tiring.
Very good. Which do you think was the bloodiest battle in history? Which do you think was the bloodiest battle in history? I think
I think Second World War
was the
is
okay. So it's a
was
battle. That's a war. So I think
I
the
think
battle
the
of
battle of
Stalingrad
Stalingrad
was the bloodiest
was
battle
the bloodiest battle
in history.
is in
Yeah.
history.
So Battle of Stalingrad happened in World War II. Okay. Next, who do you think is the most wicked person alive today? Who do you think is the most wicked person alive today? I think
I think Mr. A
is the most
is the most
wicked person
wicked person
alive today.
alive today
Why? Why? Because he
because
has done
he has
a lot
done
of
a
wicked
lot of
things.
wicked things.
Very good. Okay. Do you think parents should teach their children about the importance of being honest? Do you think parents should teach their children about the importance of being honest? Yes. I
Yes,
think parents I
parents,
I think
I
parents
think
should
parents
teach their
should be
children
should taught
should teach their
should
children
teach their children
about the
to
importance
about to be
of being
honest
honest.
or being honest.
Very good. One more. Yes, I think
Yes, I
parents
think
should teach
parents
their
to
children
teach their
about the
children about
importance of
the
being
importance of
honest.
being honest.
Very good. What do you do with clothes that you don't wear anymore? What do you do with clothes that you don't wear anymore? I
I threw
away clothes
away
that I
clothes
don't
that
wear
I don't
anymore.
wear anymore.
Very good. Are dogs very faithful to their owners? Are dogs very faithful to their owners? Yes,
Yes,
dogs are very
dogs are
faithful
very
to their
faithful
owners.
to their owners.
Very good. Is it easier to grow food on a plane than on a mountain? Is it easier to grow food on a plane than on a mountain? Yes, it's
Yes,
easier
it's
to grow food
easier to
on a
grow food
plane
on the
than
plain
on a
than
mountain.
on a mountain
Why? Why? Because the earth
because
on a
the
plane
earth on a
is
plain
usually
is
deeper
usually a
and
bit
richer.
deeper and richer.
Was the food 1,000 years ago generally plainer than it is now? Was the food 1,000 years ago generally plainer than it is now? Yes,
Yes,
food a thousand
food
years
as a
ago
thousand years
was
ago
generally
was
plainer
generally
than
plainer
it is
than
now.
it is now.
Do you have more of a taste for plain clothes or for colorful clothes? Do you have more of a taste for plain clothes or for colorful clothes? I have more of a
I have a
taste
more
for
of a taste for uh, black,
plain
colorful,
colorful
and
clothes
colorful
than
clothes
plain
than
clothes.
plain clothes.
Very good. What kind of work does a plainclothes policeman do? What kind of work does a plainclothes policeman do? A
A
plainclothes policeman
pla- play, a plain clothes policeman.
does detective
That
work,
the detective
the
work,
kind of work
the
a
kind of work
policeman
a
in
policeman
uniform
in a
could not
uniform
do
could not do
because he would
because
be
he
too
would be
noticeable.
too noticeable.
Very good. Would you like to be a plainclothes policeman? Would you like to be a plainclothes policeman? Yes or no? I
No,
wouldn't
I
like to
wouldn't like
be a
to be
plainclothes
a plain
policeman.
clothes policeman.
Very good. Okay, next. Do you think life is easier when people speak plainly to each other? That is, speak openly, directly, and honestly to each other. Do you think life is easier when people speak plainly to each other? That is, speak openly, directly, and honestly to each other. Yes or no?
Yes,
I think
I
life
think
is easier
life
when
is
people
easier when
speak
people
plainly
speak
to each
plainly
other.
to each
That
other.
is,
That
speak
is,
openly,
speak openly,
directly, and
directly,
honestly
and
to each other.
honestly to each other.
Very good. What do you do when you arrive at somebody's house to pay a visit? What do you do when you arrive at somebody's house to pay a visit? When I arrive
When
at
I arrive
somebody's
at
house to
somebody's
pay a
house
visit,
to
I
pay a
ring the
visit, I
doorbell.
ring the doorbell.
What do we do when the telephone rings? What do we do when the telephone rings? When the telephone
When the
rings, we
telephone
pick it
rings,
up
we pick
and
it
answer
up
it.
and answer it.
Right? What are the three forms of ring? What are the three forms of ring? The three
The
forms
three
of
forms
ring
of
are
ring
ring,
are
rang,
ring,
rung.
lang, rung.
If someone rang you while you were busy talking to another person, would you answer the call? If someone rang you while you were busy talking to another person, would you answer the call? Yes or no?
No,
If someone
if
rang me
someone rang
while I
me
was
while
busy
I was busy
talking to another
talking to
person,
another
I
person,
wouldn't answer
I
the
wouldn't
call.
answer the call.
Right? What number do we ring in order to call the police? What number do we ring in order to call the police? We ring
We ring
110
110
in order
in
to call the
order
police.
to call the police.
Wait, have you ever rung someone up without realizing how late it was and accidentally woken them up? Have you ever rung someone up without realizing how late it was and accidentally woken them up? Yes or no?
No,
I've never rung
I
someone
never
up
rung someone
without
up
realizing
without
how
realizing
late it
how
was
late
and
it was and
accidentally woken
accidentally
them up.
waking them on.
Very good. When people are married, which hand and finger do they wear their wedding rings on? When people are married, which hand and finger do they wear their wedding rings on? When people are
When
married,
people are
they
married,
wear their
they
wedding
wear
rings
their wedding rings
on the right,
on the right,
on the ring finger
on the ring
on
finger,
their left
on the
hand.
left hand.
Very good. Okay. What does the idiom round the bend mean? What does the idiom round the bend mean? The idiom
The
round the
idiom
bend means
round bend
mad.
means man,
Mad. Okay. Give me an
mad.
example. Give me an example, please. All this work
All
is
this work
driving me
is driving
round
me
the bend.
around the bend.
Very good. Okay, next. What do we do when we change a question from direct into indirect speech? What do we do when we change a question from direct into indirect speech? When we change
When
a
we
question
change a
from
question
direct
from
into
direct
indirect
into
speech,
indirect
we
speech,
move the
we
verb
move the
one
verb
step back
one step
into the
back
past.
into the
We
past.
use ask
We use
instead
past
of said,
instead of said,
and we do not
and
use
we do
the
not
question
use
form
the question
or a
form
question mark.
or a question mark.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. I asked them
I ask
what they
them
wanted to
what they
drink.
want to do to drink.
Very good. If the question does not contain a question word, what do we use instead? If the question does not contain a question word, what do we use instead? If the question
If the
does not
question
contain
does not
a
contain
question word,
a
we
question
use the
word,
word
we
if
use the word
or
if
whether
or
instead.
whether instead.
Very good. Give me an example. Give me an example, please. He asked her
He asked
if
her
she spoke
if
English.
she spoke in English.
Very good. Okay, now I will ask some questions and I want you to tell me what I said, okay? Here you go. How old are you? How old are you? You asked me
You asked me
how old I was.
how old I
Very
was.
good. Do your parents speak English? Do your parents speak English? You
You
asked me
asked
whether
me
my parents
whether my parents
spoke English.
spoke English.
Can you play the piano? Can you play the piano? You asked me
You asked
if
me
I could play
if
the
I
piano.
could play the piano.
Very good. What do we do when we change an imperative from direct into indirect speech? What do we do when we change an imperative from direct into indirect speech? When we change
When
an
we change
imperative
an
from
indirect
direct into,
imperative for indirect for dialect.
okay, one more. When we
When
change an
we change
imperative
an
from
imperative
direct
from
into
direct
indirect
into
speech,
indirect
we
speech,
use told,
we use told,
commanded, or ordered,
commanded, or
and
order,
we use
and
the
we use
infinitive
the
with to
infinitive with
instead
to
of the
instead of
imperative.
the imperative.
Very good. Give me an example. Give me an example, please. The king commanded
The
him
king
to leave.
commanded him to leave.
Very good. With negative imperatives, what do we do? With negative imperatives, what do we do? With negative
With
imperatives,
negative
we put
imperatives,
not
we put
before
not
the infinitive.
before the infinitive.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. His mom told
His
him
mom told him
not to get
not
home late.
to get home late.
Okay, now I will give you some orders and I want you to tell me what I said, okay? Here we go. Stand up. Stand up. You told me
You told
to
me
stand up.
to stand up.
Don't look at your book. Don't look at your book. You ordered
You
me
ordered
not to
me
look at my book.
not to look up my loop.
Correct your dictations. Correct your dictations. You told me to
You told
correct
me
my
to correct
dictations.
my dictations.
Very good. What do we do when we change a request from direct into indirect speech? What do we do when we change a request from direct into indirect speech? When we
When
change a
we
request
change a
from
request
direct
from
into
direct
indirect
into
speech,
indirect
we use
speech,
ask,
we use
and
ask.
we can use
Then
the
we can
same
use the
construction
same
that we
construction
use
that
for
we use
indirect
for
questions
indirect
or
questions or
imperatives.
imperatives.
Very good. Okay. Next, give me an example. Give me some examples, please. We ask them
We
if
ask
they could
them
show
if
us
they
the
could
way,
show us the
or
way,
we ask them
or we ask
to show
them
us the way.
to show us the way.
Right, okay, now I will make some requests and I want you to tell me what I said, okay? Number one, could you lend me your book? Could you lend me your book, please? You ask me
You ask
if
me
I could
if
lend
I
you my
could
book,
lend you my book,
or you ask me
or you ask
to
me
lend you my book.
to lend you my book.
Right, would you help me with my luggage? Would you help me with my luggage, please? You ask me
You ask
if
me
I would
if
help
I
you
would help
with
you
your luggage,
with your luggage,
or you ask me
or you
to
ask
help
me
you
to
with
help
your
you with
luggage.
your luggage.
Very good. Will you be quiet for a moment? Will you be quiet for a moment, please? You ask me
You
if
ask
I
me
would be
if
quiet
I would be
for a
quiet
moment,
for a
or you
moment,
ask
or
me
you
to be
ask me
quiet
to
for
be
a moment.
quiet for a moment.
Very good. Again, that's the end of our revision. Let's have a word. Very good. Okay, repeat. House,
Power,
home,
home,
generally speaking.
generally speaking.
Housework,
Housework,
wash up,
wash up,
housewife.
housewife.
Very good. Okay, listen. Generally speaking, the difference between the words house and home is that we use the word house when we are thinking about a physical building, the building itself. Whereas we use the word home in a more abstract sense to mean the place where we live or come from. We can use home to mean our house, town, or country. Wash up is a British English means to wash the dishes. In American English, it means to wash the face and hands. A housewife is a woman who does not have a job outside the home but takes care of her home and family instead. Let's practice. What, generally speaking, is the difference between the words house and home? What, generally speaking, is the difference between the words house and home? Generally speaking,
Generally
the
speaking,
difference
the
between
difference
the
between
words
the
house
word
and
house
home
and
is
home
that we
is
use
that we
house
use the
when we
house
are
when
thinking
we are
about
thinking
a
about
physical
a
building,
physical building,
whereas we use
whereas
home
we use
in a
home
more
in
abstract
a more
sense
abstract
to
sense
mean the place
to mean the
where
place
we live
where we live
or come from.
or come from.
Regard, what time do you usually get home at the end of the day? What time do you usually get home at the end of the day? I usually get
I
home
usually get
around
home around at 8 p.m.
at the end of the day.
At the end of the day,
One more. I usually get
I
home
usually get
around
home
8 p.m.
around 8
at the
p.m.
end of the
at the
day.
end of the day.
Very good. Do you think it's a good thing for boys and girls to leave home when they are teenagers? Do you think it's a good thing for boys and girls to leave home when they are teenagers? Yes or no?
Yes,
I think
I
it's a
think
good thing
it's a good
for
thing
boys and
for
girls
boys and
to leave
girls
home
to
when
leave
they
home
are
when they
teenagers.
are teenagers
Why? Why do you think so? Because
because it's it's cheaper to live mm,
it's cheaper to live alone.
to
Like
live,
that.
to live alone.
Very good. Okay,
Mm.
next, what's a housewife? What's a
What
housewife? A housewife
a
is a
housewife
woman
is
who
a
does
woman
not have a
who
job
does not have a job
outside the home,
outside
but
home,
takes care
but
of
takes
her
care
home
of
and
her home or
family
family and
instead.
family instead.
Very good. Okay, next, listen. The word housework is the work we have to do in the house, such as washing the dishes, cleaning the house, washing up, etc. Whereas homework is a work a pupil or a student has to do at home. Let's practice. What's the difference between a housework and a homework? What's the difference between housework and homework? The difference
The
between
difference between
housework and homework
housework and
is that
homework is
housework
that
is the
housework
work we
is the
have to
work
do
we have
in
to
the
do
house,
in the house,
such as washing,
such as washing,
cleaning, washing up,
cleaning, washing
etc.
up, etc.
Whereas homework
Whereas
is the
homework
work
is
a
a
pupil
work a
has to
pupil
do at
has
home.
to do at home.
Very good. Okay, next, let's have idiom number 8. I couldn't care less.
I couldn't
Care less.
care less.
Very good. Okay, listen. The idiom I couldn't care less means it is of no interest or importance to me. For example, he said that he was going to live in South America. He can go and live where he likes. I couldn't care less. I'm not interested in her anymore. Let's practice. What does the idiom I couldn't care less mean? What does the idiom I couldn't care less mean? The idiom
The
I
idiom
couldn't
I
care
couldn't
less meant
care less mean
it is of no
it is of
interest
no
or
interest
importance to
or
me.
importance to me.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. She has lost her
She
job,
has lost her
but she
job,
says
but she
she
said
couldn't care
she
less
couldn't care less
because she can
because
easily
she
find
can
another.
easily find another.
Very good. Okay, next, repeat. Hardly.
Hardly.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word hardly means almost not. Okay, it means almost not. We must not confuse it with the word adverb hard. For example, he hardly works means that he does almost no work, whereas he works hard means that he works a lot. He works a lot. Okay, very good. So let's practice. What's the difference between he hardly works and he works hard? What's the difference between he hardly works and he works hard? The difference
The
between
difference
he
between
hardly works
he hardly
and he
works
works
and
hard is that
works hard is
he
that
hardly works
he
means
hardly works means
that he does
that
almost
he does
no
almost
work,
no work,
whereas he works
whereas
hard
he
means
works hard to
that he
mean
works a
that
lot.
he works a lot.
Right? If you had a car accident but your car was hardly damaged, would you get it repaired or would you just leave it? If you had a car accident but your car was hardly damaged, would you get it repaired or would you just leave it? If I had a
I
car
had
accident
a car
but my
accident,
car
but
was
my car
hardly
was
damaged,
hardly damaged.
I'd
I'd repair.
I'd get it repaired.
I'd get it repaired.
Very good. Why do you think people continue to smoke even when they have hardly any money? Why do you think people continue to smoke even when they have hardly any money? I think people
I think
continue
people
to smoke
continue to
even
smoke
when they
even
have
when
hardly
they
any money
hardly any
because
money
smoking is a
because
habit
smoking is a habit
which is extremely
which is
difficult to break.
extremely difficult to
Break,
clean.
break.
Think.
Very good. Has one student hardly finished answering one question before I ask another? Has one student hardly finished answering one question before I ask another? Yes, one
Yes,
student has
one
hardly
student has
finished
hardly
answering
finished
one question
answering one
before
question
you ask
before
another.
you ask for another.
Very good. Would you say it were hardly possible for a man to live all his life without ever being ill once? Would you say it were hardly possible for a man to live all his life without ever being ill once? Yes, I'd
Yes,
say
I
it were
say
hardly
it was
possible
hardly possible
for a man to
for
live
a man
all
to
his
live
life
all his life
without ever
without
being ill
ever
once.
being where it was.
Very good. Okay, so now let's move on to reading. Okay, so our reading is at stage 6, paragraph page 488. Okay, and our last headword was strange looking. Okay, so start at the next headword. Strange looking, start at page 489. Two types of auxiliary verb.
The two types of auxiliary verb, primary, modal,